Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, Rock Solid Faith family. I am Shanique, and thank you so much for joining us on our Bible in a Year reading plan journey. If you're new here, currently we're reading through the Bible in a year from Genesis to Revelation straight through. And if you'd love to join us, you can find the reading plan that we're currently using in the description box below. If you're a new listener, please do hit that subscribe button and subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever we release a new video. And to our regular viewers, thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us and for spending time in God's Word each day. All right, so today I'll be reading from Numbers chapter 30 to 32. I'll be read from the New American Standard Bible. Now, if you're new here, typically we dive into the audio reading for the day, and then towards the end, we add some commentary. So I do encourage you to stick around to the very end. All right, let's get started with today's reading.
Numbers 30, the Law of Vows. Then Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the sons of Israel, saying, This is the word which the Lord has commanded. If a man makes a vow to the Lord, or takes an oath to put himself under a binding obligation, he shall not break his word. He shall act in accordance with everything that comes out of his mouth. And if a woman makes a vow to the Lord and puts herself under a binding obligation in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and her obligation under which she has put herself, and her father says nothing to her, then all her vows shall remain valid, and every binding obligation under which she has put herself shall remain valid. But if her father expresses disapproval to her on the day he hears of it, none of her vows or her obligations under which she has put herself shall remain valid, and the Lord will forgive her because her father has expressed disapproval to her. However, if she happens to marry while under her vows or the impulsive statement of her lips by which she has obligated herself, and her husband hears of it and says nothing to her on the day he hears it, then her vows shall remain valid, and her binding obligations under which she has put herself shall remain valid. But if on the day her husband hears of it, he expresses disapproval to her, then he will annul her vow which she is under, and the impulsive statement of her lips by which she has obligated herself, and the Lord will forgive her. But as for the vow of a widow or of a divorced woman, every binding obligation under which she has put herself shall remain valid against her. However, if a married woman vowed in her husband's house, or put herself under a binding obligation with an oath, and her husband heard it, but said nothing to her and did not express disapproval to her, then all her vows shall remain valid, and every binding obligation under which she put herself shall remain valid. But if her husband actually annuls them on the day he hears them, then no utterance from her lips concerning her vows or the obligation she put on herself shall remain valid. Her husband has annulled them, and the Lord will forgive her. Every vow and every binding oath to humble herself, her husband may confirm it or her husband may annul it. But if her husband in fact says nothing to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all her binding obligations which are on her. He has confirmed them, because he said nothing to her on the day he heard them. However, if he actually annuls them after he has heard them, then he shall bear the responsibility for her guilt. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses concerning matters between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter while she is in her youth in her father's house. Numbers 31, the slaughter of Midian. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take vengeance on the Midianites for the sons of Israel. Afterward you will be gathered to your people. So Moses spoke to the people, saying, Arm men from among you for the war, so that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall send 1,000 from each tribe of all the tribes of Israel to the war. So there were selected from the thousands of Israel, 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them, 1,000 from each tribe, to the war, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest, to the war with them, and the holy implements and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. So they made war against Midian, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian along with the rest of those killed, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam the son of Beor with the sword. And the sons of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones, and they plundered all their cattle, all their flocks, and all their property. Then they burned all their cities where they lived and all their encampments. And they took all the plunder and all the spoils, both of people and of livestock. They brought the captives and the spoils and the plunder to Moses, to Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of the sons of Israel, to the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by the Jordan, opposite Jericho. And Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the congregation went out to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, who had come from service in the war. And Moses said to them, "Have you spared all the women? Behold, they caused the sons of Israel, through the counsel of Balaam, to be unfaithful to the Lord in the matter of Peor, so that the plague took place among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known a man intimately. However, all the girls who have not known a man intimately, keep alive for yourselves. And as for you, camp outside the camp for 7 days. Whoever has killed a person and whoever has touched anyone killed, purify yourselves, you and your captives, on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And you shall purify for yourselves every garment, every article of leather, every work of goat's hair, and every article of wood." Then Eleazar the priest said to the men of war who had gone to battle, "This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded Moses. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can withstand the fire. You shall pass through the fire, and it will be clean, only it shall be purified with water for impurity. But whatever cannot withstand the fire you shall pass through the water. And you shall wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you will be clean, and afterward you may enter the camp." Division of the plunder. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "You and Eleazar the priest and the heads of the fathers' households of the congregation take account of the spoils that were captured, both of people and of livestock, and divide the spoils between the warriors who went to battle and all the congregation. Also, collect a tribute tax for the Lord from the men of war who went to battle, 1 in 500 of the persons, of the cattle, of the donkeys, and of the sheep. Take it from their half and give it to Eleazar the priest as an offering to the Lord. And from the sons of Israel's half, you shall take 1 drawn from every 50 of the persons, of the cattle, of the donkeys, and of the sheep, from all the animals, and give them to the Levites who perform the duty of the tabernacle of the Lord." Moses and Eleazar the priest did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now the spoils that remained from the plunder which the men of war had plundered was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and of captive people of the women who had not known a man intimately. In all were 32,000 people. The half, the share of those who went to war, was as follows. The number of sheep was 337,500. The Lord's tribute tax of the sheep was 675. The cattle were 36,000, from which the Lord's tribute tax was 72. The donkeys were 30,500, from which the Lord's tribute tax was 61. And the captive people were 16,000, from whom the Lord's tribute tax was 32 persons. And Moses gave the tribute tax, which was the Lord's offering, to Eleazar the priest, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. As for the sons of Israel's half, which Moses separated from the men who had gone to war, now the congregation's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and the captive people were 16,000. From the sons of Israel's half Moses took 1 drawn from every 50, both of people and of animals, and gave them to the Levites, who performed the duty of the tabernacle of the Lord, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then the officers who were over the thousands of the army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, approached Moses, and they said to Moses, "Your servants have taken a census of the men of war who are under our authority, and no man of us is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord what each man found: articles of gold, armlets and bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from them, all kinds of crafted articles. All the gold of the offering which they offered up to the Lord, from the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, was 16,750 shekels. The men of war had taken plunder, every man for himself. So Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and brought it to the tent of meeting as a memorial for the sons of Israel before the Lord. Numbers 32. Reuben and Gad settle in Gilead. Now the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad had a very large number of livestock. So when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that it was indeed a place suitable for livestock, the sons of Gad and the sons of Reuben came and spoke to Moses, Eleazar the priest, and to the leaders of the congregation, saying, Adaroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elili, Sebum, Nebo, and Beon, the land which the Lord conquered before the congregation of Israel, is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock. And they said, If we have found favor in your sight, let this land be given to your servants as our property. Do not take us across the Jordan. But Moses said to the sons of Gad and the sons of Reuben, Should your brothers go to war while you remain here? And why are you discouraging the sons of Israel from crossing over into the land which the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up to the valley of Eshcol and saw the land, they discouraged the sons of Israel, so that they did not go into the land which the Lord had given them. So the Lord's anger burned on that day, and he swore, saying, None of the men who came up from Egypt, from 20 years old and upward, shall see the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, for they did not follow me fully. Except Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have followed the Lord fully. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years, until the entire generation of those who had done evil in the sight of the Lord came to an end. Now behold, you have risen up in your father's place, born of sinful men, to add still more to the burning anger of the Lord against Israel. For if you turn away from following him, he will once more leave them in the wilderness, and you will destroy all these people. Then they approached him and said, We will build sheepfolds for our livestock here and cities for our little ones, but we ourselves will be armed, hurrying ahead of the sons of Israel, until we have brought them to their place, while our little ones live in the fortified cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every one of the sons of Israel has gained possession of his inheritance. But we will not have an inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan and beyond, because our inheritance has come to us on this side of the Jordan toward the east. So Moses said to them, If you will do this, if you will arm yourselves before the Lord for the war, and all of you armed men cross over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out from him, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then afterward you may return and be free of obligation toward the Lord and toward Israel, and this land shall be yours as property before the Lord. But if you do not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure that your sin will find you out. Build yourself cities for your little ones, and sheepfolds for your sheep, and do what you have promised. Then the sons of Gad and the sons of Reuben spoke to Moses, saying, Your servants will do just as my Lord commands. Our little ones, our wives, our livestock, and all our cattle shall remain there in the cities of Gilead, while your servants, that is, everyone who is armed for war, cross over in the presence of the Lord to battle, just as my Lord says. So Moses gave the command regarding them to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua the son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers' households of the tribes of the sons of Israel. And Moses said to them, If the sons of Gad and the sons of Reuben, everyone who is armed for battle, cross with you over the Jordan in the presence of the Lord, and the land is subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead as their property. But if they do not cross over with you armed, they shall instead be settled among you in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Gad and the sons of Reuben answered, saying, As the Lord has said to your servants, so we will do. We ourselves will cross over armed in the presence of the Lord into the land of Canaan, and the property of our inheritance shall remain with us across the Jordan. So Moses gave to them, to the sons of Gad, the sons of Reuben, and to the half-tribe of Joseph's son Manasseh, the kingdom of Sion, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, the king of Bashan, the land with its cities with their territories, the cities of the surrounding land. And the sons of Gad built Dibon, Adaroth, Aroer, Atroth-Shaphan, Jazer, Jogbehah, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran as fortified cities and sheepfolds for sheep. The sons of Reuben built Heshbon, Elili, Kiriathaim, Nebo, and Balmeon, their names being changed, and Sibmah, and they gave other names to the cities which they built. The sons of Machir the son of Manasseh went to Gilead and took it, and dispossessed the Amorites who were in it. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir the son of Manasseh, and he lived in it. Jair the son of Manasseh went and took its towns, and called them Havoth-Jair. Noba went and took Kenath and its villages, and named it Noba after his own name.
All right, that was our reading for today. Let's dive into today's commentary. Now, today's commentary is sponsored by the Daily Grace, and they have a 4-volume series called The Story of Redemption, which provides a daily devotional style commentary for each day's reading. It also comes with some reflection questions as well to help you think about what you just read and just to kind of help you go a little bit deeper. So if you'd like to check that out, you can find the link to that in the description box below. And for today, I'm going to be reading a sample of this commentary so you have an idea of what you can expect should you decide to purchase the Story of Redemption series. All right, let's get started. Now, God is forming the nation of Israel, and while doing so, He is revealing His plans for them. The first generation who had come out of Egypt, they died in the wilderness after refusing to trust the Lord to allow them to enter. Now, the second generation was getting ready to enter this long awaited promised land. God had great and beautiful land for them, but they often wanted to do things their way. God has set aside the beautiful promised land for them, but they still want to settle for land that is less than God's best for them. In chapter 32, we see that the people asked God to give them a lesser land. It seemed so much easier in the moment, but it was far from God's best for them. They were struggling to trust that God would do what He had promised He would do. We often do the same. We're willing to take the easier road that will give us something good instead of waiting for God's perfect plan. We struggle to trust in His faithfulness, though He has never, not once, failed us. Almost all of the Israelites fall into this trap. But there are two, Joshua and Caleb, who are wholly dedicated to the Lord, and it is recorded here. What a precious reminder that God sees our quiet faithfulness even when it seems like no one else does. But even more than that, we can see that these faithful men who led their people pointed us to the true and better faithful leader we find in Jesus. He is the one who will lead us safely home. All right, that is our reading for today. Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast episode, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our Bible in a Year reading plan.